Hey everyone, so this is a bit of a different video than what I'm planning on doing with the Finding Your Bug series, but I thought it would be good, and people have been asking, to talk about my route into bug bounties, what my background is, what experience I'd had in kind of security before I started, talking about the live events I've been to and what I've been doing kind of on the side. I don't intend for this to be like super inspiring, but I hope it helps give you some insight into where I came from before I found my first bug, and obviously in the past 6 months how much the kind of bug bounty community has really done for me and how I've really got involved in it. So if you're not interested, don't watch it obviously, but if you are interested, I hope you find it at least a little bit kind of useful, or it will help you in some way. So, pre-bug bounty life. So, I have a degree. This is my graduation with some of my friends from university and our professor, who looks very much like a professor. So, I have a degree in computer science. It's a first-class honours degree. For people who are outside the UK, that roughly is like a 4.0 GPA. It's a bit weird here because our 70% is 100%, and yeah, it's weird. So, I don't really have any security experience. I didn't really do security at university. In fact, I focused mainly on web dev because prior to this, I'd kind of been doing web dev since I was about 13. So I knew that I could play to my strengths. And before I started university, I went to college and did a BTEC, and I'm not even going to bother explaining that for all the Americans. It's high school, the last 2 years of high school, but practical rather than exams. I'm not going to explain it anymore though, because it's very unique to the UK. So, when I was at college, I had a tutor and I was like, you should do a PhD. And I didn't really agree with him at the time, but I found as I worked more and more through my kind of university career that I wanted to do a PhD. I really wanted to do a PhD. I was down to do a PhD. So knowing that and being able to go into university knowing that I wanted to do a PhD, I knew I needed to get very high grades. Now, as someone who's definitely more of a practical learner who likes to sit down and try things out, I realised that the exam part would be very difficult. So when I could, I played to my strengths. I did a lot of web development courses. I struggled through some of the more theoretical stuff, but I came out the other side. And then after I'd done all my courses, my dissertation topic, which is also a party trick, if you ever see me in real life and want to kind of have me perform for you. My dissertation was in deciphering ancient languages, and that's where I really developed an interest for what's called natural language processing, which is machine learning on text. So it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's super interesting, because for a lot of people it probably isn't. But it's really cool to work with text because you have such an intuitive, like humans in general, because we use language to interact with the world in so many different ways. Like everything is writing. We speak. It's very intuitive compared to machine learning when you're often working with numbers. They're not necessarily as intuitive as text. You can kind of see if something works. So I really liked that, and deciphering ancient languages is just kind of cool. Like, it sounds kind of really technical. Someone came around at my final year project presentation and said, finally a good computer science project, and I was like, yay. Recognized my hard work. So really, although that's kind of like decipherment and code breaking is the history of cybersecurity, I really did do any kind of cybersecurity. I wasn't necessarily that interested in cybersecurity, and if you ask me, I'll say I kind of ended up in cybersecurity by accident. So after I finished university, I worked for 6 months as a data scientist / software developer / data engineer. I basically did 3 jobs, and I really liked my job because I found it challenging. I got to work with all the technologies. I had quite a lot of responsibility over my own projects. I worked quite closely with the owners of the company delivering these insights, and the managers and stuff. So I really held, I'm not going to say like a super experienced role, but I definitely felt like what I was doing mattered. But I didn't really feel fulfilled by that. And because I knew I wanted to do a PhD, I knew that a job would never going to fill me with the same fulfillment that doing a PhD did. So when I was kind of sick of my job after 3 months, I don't stick at things very long. As soon as I was sick of my job about 3 months in, I was like, I need to get on a PhD. So I started looking. There's a website called Find a PhD, and I started looking at the website and kind of looking at PhDs I'd be interested in doing, and I kind of ended up with these kind of 3 different projects. One was healthcare and natural language processing, the other one was cybersecurity and natural language processing, and the final one was data science. And I ended up getting rejected from the first one. I ended up with these 2 options, which was data science or NLP. And I could have taken the data science one and really fit it to my own interests, but I didn't necessarily have the same, I wouldn't have the same support as doing it with like cybersecurity. So that's how I kind of ended up in cybersecurity. I ended up applying to this PhD without really having any kind of cybersecurity experience, to do cybersecurity with my background in natural language processing. So I started my PhD not really knowing anything about security, and I kind of learned as I started my PhD more about security, but it's always been for my PhD a kind of domain. So my PhD is all about understanding reports. So if you run, say, a bug bounty program, you probably deal with a ton of these reports, right? A lot of them might be duplicates. So what we want to do is kind of take a bunch of reports written about a security incident and computationally kind of mush them together into this crazy red string conspiracy theory land. And that's why I always tell people that my whole PhD is about taking these reports and drawing red string between all the events. But computationally, because I'm lazy and actually reading a report sounds really hard. So my PhD is my full-time job. I don't do bug bounties as a job. It is literally a side hobby that pays for other hobbies. My PhD, I work 9 to 5. I work 7 days a week. I hope not. 5 days a week. And I have kind of the normal UK working hours. Academia tends to be a lot more flexible than industry, so I do have the chance to do things like go to life hacking events. Which brings me on to my very first life hacking event in London. This is a photo of me and my fellow PhD student Tatiana. And now I found out about this basically through the grapevine. Although I wasn't into security, some of the other people who I went to university with are security people. They are working in industry. And I got a message from one of them saying, oh, HackerOne's running this event. And I was vaguely familiar with what HackerOne did and what bug bounties were, but I didn't know anything about live events or anything like that. And they said, look, here's an application form to be a mentee. And I was like, cool, can my fellow PhD student also do it? And they were like, yeah, of course. So I gave it to her knowing that she's really interested in penetration testing. And I really see security as a domain rather than something I'm strictly interested in. Or at the time anyway, I really did see it as a kind of application to my actual interest. Although it's kind of changed now, I see security as kind of half of my life. So I didn't originally apply, and then my friend poked me, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll apply. So I also applied. We both got in, and we both went to London for the day, and we got access to the mentee program. So what the mentee program is there's me and a bunch of other people who are recruited through kind of local London women in security, women and gender diverse people really in security meetups. And I'd been active previously when I was at university in a lot of these kind of initiatives, especially in kind of communities around what was computer science. So we both applied, we both got in. So we just went down to London for the day, and I'd never heard of a live event before I went to them, and I gotta say, the energy was insane. And my first live event, I was like, oh my god, these people are crazy. And my second live event, I was one of the crazy people. I was like, yeah, go! Super into it. So I'm going to go into more detail about what live events are actually like in another video, I think, because there's too much hype to really put into one video. But essentially, we were paired with people from HackerOne who were like technical program managers. Cody, who isn't at the moment, but was the education lead. And we were given a target, which was Uber. And we had a very basic introduction to Burp. I'd never used Burp before, by the way, before I even started this. And then introduction to Recon. Which were two very, very good presentations, even though Cody said he never presented the Recon one, he did a very good job at presenting it. And we were basically told, yeah, go ahead. So, spoiler alert, I found my first and second bug while there. So, I'm not really going to go into detail about how I found it, but really I wasn't expecting to find a bug. I wasn't expecting to do anything like that at all. And it was just midway through the day, I was just dicking about, trying to learn how to use Burp. A lot of the other mentees had started working on the CTF, and I was like, maybe I should work on the CTF as well. So what I did was, I brought an iPad with me. I just started messing about on the iPad, on the phone. I didn't even have them jailbroken because I didn't know shit about how to actually hack anything, and how to get anything set up. So I was just messing about. One of the Uber apps just didn't have the cert pinning on it. So we just played around with that. And I was looking through the requests and I noticed that one of them just seemed weird to me. Like the data it was sending and the endpoint was so much different to all of the other endpoints. So I flagged up some of the mentors. I was like, hey, this looks weird. And I'm not sure, like it was really more of a gut feeling than any actual evidence that there was anything there. So we started looking at it and we realised that there was an IDOR there. And we could just mess about with the IDs. And Cody's face lit up when he realised that we'd found an IDOR. And the problem is these IDORs aren't sequential. The IDs weren't sequential, so we had to find a way to do it. So we spent quite a lot of the day trying to find a way to find this ID. And then we realised something else. When I was testing it, as you do, I didn't put in normal numbers. I was putting in like really high numbers, and I realised if I was playing with it on the app side, the really high numbers wouldn't work. But if I was doing it on the server side by putting it into Burp Repeater, it would work. And then Cody was like, try putting in a negative number, and it worked. So we managed to find another bug on the same endpoint, which was a business logic error, essentially. So these were my first two bugs, the IDOR and the business logic error. So, unfortunately, I'd found this endpoint about midday, and the event finished at something like 5 PM. By the time we'd got here, it was about 4:25. We were like trying to validate it with the team on site and be like, is this actually a bug? Because I was super anxious about the entire thing. We were still trying to look at a way to find the IDs, and it got to a point where we were like, okay, it's now 4:50. We need to just submit the report. We submit the first report, like just get them in, get them done. And then one of the people from HackerOne, one of the people organising the mentorship program, comes up to me and says, Katie, you've got some good news. And I was like, oh my god, no. And then he was like, you're now $1,000 richer. I was like, oh my god, what? And I'd found, like, I'd gotten $1,000, and I cannot tell you how stressful this was. Like, I was shaking. I wrote the report, and then like my internet disconnected or something, it didn't go through, and I couldn't write the second report because my hands were just shaking so badly. I'd never written a report before. I'd never done it. I had to do it in like 10 minutes. Then I was like, then to know I'd actually gotten some money for it was insane. Like this was like peak stressful. And I went home very happy. Like, I was ecstatic and confused and happy, but very confused. So, all my first 2 bugs. And then I kind of didn't do any more hacking. Like, I wasn't necessarily not interested in it. I just felt so overwhelmed looking at kind of all of the programs. And I had like a bit of a poke around, but I just didn't feel very confident to do it on my own. So this brings me to this email. So I woke up. Oh, you got to understand is that I live in the UK, and there's quite a big time difference between the UK and the US. So I woke up for work one morning, and I got this email, and I was like, what? And the email was like, look, we'd like to invite you to participate. And I was like, what? They sent an email back saying, like, is this real? And I never heard a response back. And I was like, well, if it's not real, oh well. So I filled in the form, submitted it, and then replied back to get some more, like, logistical info, like, especially about how much I'd be expected to pay for. Because I'm a student. Like, as much as I love my PhD, it doesn't actually pay that well to afford flights to America without that much notice. But they're like, no, flights are included. Everything's included. We'll see you in Vegas. And I was like, oh my god, what? So I told my supervisor, and he was like, have fun in Vegas. I'm like, oh my god, I cannot believe. And this mentorship program was kind of a bit different because we got paired with hackers instead. So this is me and one of my mentors, Justin. I was also paired with Tom, aka Tom Nom Nom. This is Rhino Rater. And the first day I didn't find anything, but actually, having been so stressed at the London event, I was more ready to sit down, do some networking, get to know people, and spend more time learning than I was going to spend time hacking. So the first day I didn't really find anything. Decided to work on bugs for day 3 because day 2 I didn't find anything, but I did have the chance to speak to so many people and find out about really cool bugs they were working on. So day 3, I haven't found anything yet. I found some kind of, I'm going to call them attack vectors, because we were given such a large scope by Verizon, which was star.yahoo.com. And I'd found some kind of places I wanted to poke, and I'd spoken to Cody the day before, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is anything, and he agreed. So then I focused on this one app, basically, this one application. So in the morning I wake up, because the bug hunting in Vegas doesn't actually start until like 4, and it goes on until like 3 a.m. So people have the chance to go to DefCon, and I decided I'm not going to DefCon. I bought tickets to DefCon and only went for 1 hour because I was just too busy with all the HackerOne stuff. So I went to there's quite a lot of I'm going to say a culture of going to people's hotel, like each other's hotel rooms and hacking with people. Especially if you're not already in a team, because it makes it a bit more social. So, Justin had invited people to come to his room. I decided to come there as well. And I sat down with this new target, and with about half an hour, I found another bug. And I was talking to my mentors about it, and they're like, yep, resubmit it. And I was just trying to poke it to figure out if I could do anything more, and then it got literally 10 minutes before the bus was due, and we're very quickly writing a report, because there's basically a dupe window. If you can submit the report before the event starts, if it's a duplicate with somebody else at the event, the bounty will be split. So I submitted that, and I basically, there's a video from the highlight where I'm shaking, because I went to Tiffany, because Tiffany runs the mentoring program at HackerOne. I was like, I found a bug, and she's like, no. And then the camera gets pointed at me, and I'm sitting there trying to being interviewed. It's so what happened? I found a bug with my mentors in the hotel room this morning, and I was so pleased. I was happy with just that. The event starts. It's a duplicate. it's a duplicate on the main program, which means, and I actually found out whose bug it was a duplicate of at a later date. But I got like $50 for it, and I was like, okay, this is a good attack vector. Let's keep going. So I found another bug. And I found another bug. So this was like literally we were looking at this one app and looking at basically API endpoints and seeing if we could find an IDOR essentially. And I found a different bug, not related to an IDOR, but more of a business logic error. And Justin has just put in one of his bugs, and he goes to go speak to a triager, and he just goes away for 5 minutes. And he comes back, and 5 minutes later, I'm like, Justin, I found something. So there's this photo which is taken after I show him what I found. But the photo before, where it's like him just looking at my screen, and I explain to him what I found, and he just starts smiling and being like, Katie! And we are hyped. So when I was in Vegas, I managed to find 3 bugs, one of which was a duplicate, but honestly, I'm still really happy with it. So those are my first, 5 bugs. So then we go on to 604, which is in Vancouver. I didn't find any bugs at 604. And that's okay. I think at a lot of live hacking events, it can be really stressful to find bugs. And this was a hardened target. It was not easy. As far as I know, there was some more newbie hackers there, although I don't think there was a mentor program. I think they were just newbie hackers who were at the first live event, and I spoke to them, and they were working on one bug, but it's a low. But that's fine. Live events can be so stressful, and I don't think people realize how stressful they can be. They just want to get invited and don't realize that there's so much pressure on you. So I plot myself between Cody and a random deduction. And just, although they are very good, they're fucking top hackers, right? I am nowhere near. But I decided to take this opportunity as a learning experience. So I went and spoke to Disturbance. I actually got a proper one-on-one tutorship from Stalk, however you pronounce an O with 2 dots on the top, about how to find race conditions. And I was sitting next to Jesse and Cody, and when they were hacking away, I was like, oh my god, I was sitting there cheering for them. And it's great to be in that position to cheer on your friends. And Cody then got show and tell, and I clapped really loud, and I wooed him, as in going woo, nothing weird. So I really got to experience the live hacking as a participant who isn't basically working the entire event. And I spoke to so many people, I met so many people, I met people that, I hadn't spoken to before. I know it was Space Raccoon's first event. I spent some time speaking to him, and I got to know some of the hardware hackers, and I ended up speaking to somebody who works on who's basically does triage for a bug bounty program, and I got to hear about what it was like on the other side. And if you want to know more about 604, I was invited to publish a blog post on what it was like, so you can hear all about what I did every day. So after 604, HackerOne were so there's a conference called DefendCon in Seattle. Would you like to be on a panel? And I was like, yes, I would. So they paid once again for me to go to Seattle. I didn't have to cover anything myself, and I got to experience the bug bounty panel. I was paired with Dawn, who is a senior iOS, I think she's tester? I can't remember what her title is, but she hacks mobile apps. And that's her job. And she did an amazing panel on hacking the Apple Watch, which went completely over my head because it was so technical, but it was amazing. So I got to go on this panel, and I'd never been on a panel before. So because I do a PhD, there is kind of an expectation for me to be a good presenter. and I flopped quite a few presentations, which is just the nature, like when you're not used to, especially if you don't know how to present yourself, it can be really hard. So this is one of the best presentations I've ever done, like by far. Like, as in, I learned so much about how I like to present from this panel. So I spoke, the panel finished, and it was all about kind of our journeys into hacking, what hacking is like, and because DefendCon is specifically for women and people who are gender diverse, and unrepresented minorities just in general. We had some really good discussions about inclusivity and, you know, how new people in security can really get into security. And how I got into bug bounties and stuff like that. Very similar to this kind of presentation, but much more informal, but also much more formal because I was sitting there with a microphone looking like I knew what I was talking about. So I finished the panel and I sat down, and I had a queue of people to talk to me afterwards. And let me tell you, that's how you know that you've not only just nailed a presentation, you've completely demolished presentation where you have a line of people who just want to talk to you. So I spoke to a bunch of people, and they were like, oh, you're so inspiring, and I was, no joke, I was touched. I don't really consider myself inspiring. I don't also consider myself like that good at presenting, or I'm not a cybersecurity, like I don't really consider myself a full cybersecurity person. I'm like part cybersecurity, part like machine learning. But so many people said they really enjoyed the presentation, and it was a highlight of my year for sure. So I get home, start relaxing. You've been invited, there's a community day at H1213 and we'd like you to be on the panel for it, and if you want you can also do the hacking. And I'm like, yes please. So at 2:13, this is me in LA. You can see me with my little hat. I actually really like this photo because you can see my laptop. My laptop is halved, so the left side of my laptop is all machine learning and artificial intelligence and NLP stuff, and the right side is all my cybersecurity stuff, which really I think represents me as a person, which is, you know, hand in two pies. So at 2:13, it's definitely been my most successful live hacking event so far. So a lot of the focus was going to be on teams, because teams had performed so well. So I was like, I want to join a team. And I got paired with some amazing hackers. And we had a team of 4 of us. Oh, there's going to be 5, but then we got cut down to 4. So we had been working on the 2 targets, which was the Defense Digital Services for Hack the Air Force, and Verizon with quite a small scope, like not that far, not close to their scope they had at 702. And we found some bugs on both things, but I found my first cross-site scripting bug. I've never found any kind of cross-site scripting bug before, like ever, and I found it in a really weird place. And it wasn't a duplicate, and no joke, I'd spoken to a few people and they were impressed that I managed to find cross-site scripting that wasn't a duplicate, and I was really happy. I'd also helped my team find some IDORs, and in total we submitted like 30 bugs, I think, so we did like really well on the bug, and I learned so much from my teammates. Like, there's nothing, I think, with the mentor program, there's very much an expert and somebody who is not an expert, and I think especially as I transitioned away from really being a mentee and more into being a hacker in my own right, working with people and learning from them is such a useful experience. And then day 2 came around and I wasn't really hacking on the second target. I was mainly focused on the panel, and I just focused on the panel. I was basically supporting my teammates in making sure that their bugs were going to go okay and that kind of thing. I wasn't submitting any bugs. I did look, but I couldn't find anything significant. The panel went really well. I love teaching in general. So it was really good to also not just do a panel, which was kind of similar to the panel I'd done at DefendCon, but with a different kind of twist, talking way more about bug bounties and what my experience is like and what I look for in a program and what being a hacker is like, and far more focused on that than kind of the gender diverse stuff that we're focusing on from the other panel. I also got to help by basically TAing and sitting and help people find their first flags on the CTF. So that was like last month. Actually, was it this month? I don't know. That was a few weeks ago. So what's the future? What do I want to do? What am I going to continue doing bug bounties? So one thing that really stuck with me is when I was first a mentee in London, Tiffany had said she wanted the mentees to become mentors in the future. That was her goal. And I want to be that goal. Like, I want to show her that that's possible. So in terms of bug bounties, I want to get better. I want to become a mentor, but not in the way that I think a lot of people say I'm a great mentor at the moment, but really I don't know what I'm doing. But be a kind of somebody who knows what they're doing and is also a mentor. And my professional career, I want to carry on doing research for universities, and I know that a lot of people think it's a bit dumb, but I really like working for a university. And I think it's a unique opportunity to not be a kind of professor who is like, yes, back in my day, we all had SQL injections, and you all need to do MySQL strip tags before you take database inputs. I want to be the kind of professor who knows about the current industry and who wants to tell their students, hey, like, this is bug bounties, this is a thing, by the way, this is like a thing that didn't even exist a few years ago, but now it's a thing, and now you can make some good money doing this. And that's just what we're going to keep doing. Like, I want to keep learning more stuff about bug bounties. I want to carry on learning more about hacking. Like, I think this has really made cybersecurity such a big part of my life. And I want to carry on. I really like it, and the community is second to none, really. I think if you're just starting out in bug bounties and you're like, who can I turn to? The bug bounty community is so welcoming. I have not had a bad experience with the community. So I hope this weird video about my life has kind of interested you or inspired you or anything like that, or whatever, right? Don't worry, there's more useful videos coming soon. So thank you very much and have a great day.